All right, guys, we're going to be making a new one of these next. There's a lot of wear here. I thought about going ahead and getting this machine down, but on the front side, I'm actually going to install 2 brass set screws to apply tension to the ram to make sure that there's no slop. And I wanted a little bit more meat to thread in those set screws, so we're going to step up to a larger piece of plate. So we're going to go ahead and get that cut out and get it machined. We finally got this machine up and running, and we're going to make a pretty aggressive cut. Next to running a slab mill, I think this is probably one of the coolest things you can do on one of these horizontal mills. We're going to do some gang milling. Never done this before, have no idea if it's going to work, but if the video's up, I'm assuming it worked. So we're going to be running 2 cutters that are different. I know it's not ideal. I wish I had 2 of the same, but they're indexable, which is kind of cool. Never seen any videos on people running these. I think they're like slitting saws. We're going to use them to go ahead and cut a piece of steel to the same dimension this way. So we're going to get this set up, and we're going to get to cutting. All right, let's get our DRO flipped on over here. And here's a close-up of the cutters we're going to be using. They are different. It's not ideal, but we'll see if it works. Some sort of square indexing cutter here. Nothing too crazy. It looks like it has a max RPM of 9,400. We will be nowhere near that. It's Kearney. I'm sure it's a few years old, best case. And then we have this guy here. The markings, I think it's an Ingersoll, a little bit hard to see. The insert style is a little bit unique here. This, I think it's like a LMNX type insert, pretty interesting. So we're gonna be running both of these. Fortunately enough, if I put them in the same direction to where I'm cutting on either side, the cutter is on both sides. So that worked out real nice. So we're gonna set these up and then make a pass going through the material so we can cut each side parallel. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get the Arbor set up. So we're gonna get this cleaned out. All right, I already cleaned up the Arbor over on the bench. It was a little rusty just sitting in the corner. This is a Polish-made Arbor. And it looks like it's never been used, so this will be great first test for it. All right, now that we got the drawbar tightened, we're gonna get our cutters loaded up here. This is an 1.5" bar. Really nice, looks like it's never been used before. Oh yeah, it still has the Cosmoline on it. We've got a nice hefty key there. All right. And then for maximum rigidity, we're going to be getting the cutter decently close to the Arbor. Let me just move the spindle up. All right, got some acetone. We can get this Arbor cleaned up. Like I said, it is brand new. We're just getting the stuff off of it. All right, let's load our first slitting saw up here. Now in a perfect world, you'd stone each one of these. My stone is down right now. That slitting saw is not the right size. That one is. So we'll need to actually make a bushing for that one. Make sure the key is gonna work. Yep, the key is gonna work, all right. So we need to make a bushing for this. I'm gonna make that off camera and bring it back. All right, guys, off camera, I went ahead and made up a sleeve here. I mic'd it, everything is really, really tight. It's loose now because it's sprung open, but it's a nice fit. So we got the keyway cut there for the opening. And it's nice that we can just spring it into place, drop it in, make sure our cutters are going the correct direction here. And we'll go ahead and slide this guy on. Nice snug fit. There she is. and bring it all the way back. Take our key, slide our key in there, all right. And then we got to get our spacing correct. So I'm going to guess this is a 4-inch. Guessing is really good practice in machining. I'll go confirm that. All right, we're back with the calipers. Let's take a look. All right, that would have been close, 3.75. And then, so we're going to need a 1/4, which looks like this guy. Double check. Yep, that's a 1/4. Okay, all right, so we need another 2 inches. I'm gonna guess this is gonna be 1.5 inches. Doing a lot of guessing today, and I'm wrong, 1.25 inches. All right, so now we have 5 1/4, which is good. We need 6 1/4, so we just need 1 inch. 1 inch right there, okay. All right, so this should be 6 1/4. And since these are precision machined here, I'm gonna use my tape just to get us close. All right, 6 1/4, so we're good there. All right, I'm gonna go hunting for a keyway off camera here. All right, we went ahead and made another keyway off camera. Nice tight fit here. And I would like it to slide. I want it to slide a little bit more underneath the back. Yeah, just into that guy a little bit. There we go. That way the chance of it wandering off isn't quite as high. There we go. That makes me feel a little bit better. That's the thing about these horizontal mills is all this stuff is really precise fit. Get some non-marring pliers here. Knipex pliers wrench, I love these things. Real tight fit. All right, we got a little bit of a dead blow here. Just gonna slide it along, try to get it into that back one. That's good. I just want some engagement into the back. The shim that was a little bit bigger. Yep, 6 1/4, okay. All right, I'm feeling good with that. Make sure our cutter is the right direction. All right, nice, good fit there, okay. Do something there. And just to kind of cover up the keyway. There we go. Perfect. All right, we got our arbor built out, and we'll go ahead and get the overarm support on here and get everything tightened up. All right, for the overarm support, I'm gonna go ahead and slide these guys out. And sometimes what you can do is you can actually bring one of these back to make it easier to get the overarm support on, but mine seems to go on real nice, so I don't seem to have to do that. See, it goes on easy, at least on my machine. All right, I'm gonna get this tightened down here first and then slide it back. Get that cranked down. All right, and then I'm gonna slide my support back. And we do have a bearing here, so I'm gonna actually, here we go, kind of split the difference. All right, so that's good there. We can slide a couple more of these guys on here. All right, ideally we have one that's bridges that gap there. A couple of these guys. There we go, we got that gap bridged, okay. All right, and we can just snug this up. It doesn't have to be super tight. All right, let me make sure the spindle is locked. We do have the keys holding those on, so this pressure isn't holding these, the keys are. So we want to make sure it's taut. That's fine. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get our lock bolts up here at the top, locked for the ram. Make sure everything is nice and tight because we are going to be doing some heavy cutting here. These bolts right here, and we are going to be using cutting fluid here, which is great because I've been wanting to put this to work. And I have the double setup, which is great. All right, we got these bolts tightened up. All right, I'm just going to leave the wrench on there. Perfect. Okay, we're going to move our oiler to the correct position using a 3/8 Allen wrench, I believe is how I designed this. Nice tight fit. And we're going to bring it down. Yeah, that should be good. Get her tightened up. Come over here and get these arms positioned. You could definitely do this job dry, but I'm just looking for an excuse to use this, to be honest. All right, so we're good there. All right, guys, let's just review our setup before we get started. We have our plate clamped down. I have some 1, 2, 3 blocks underneath. I got 4 of them near all 4 corners. We went ahead and have these low profile toe clamps clamping our plate down. And then in the front, I actually have 2 additional bars pushing the front because we're going to be feeding in this direction and the load of the cutter is going to want to bring it forward. I hope that isn't necessary, but it is there just in case to kind of add a little bit more rigidity and support. So we got our cutters set up. I think we got the depth good. We actually are real close on the height. So I have the table raised as high as it can so the cutters do clear. But if I were to go back, I would actually hit this nut. So I'm right between the nut and this gap here, but it's completely fine. And the same thing once we get over to this side and we pass through the material, I'm going to have to make an adjustment over here as well and stop the cutter. We got our fluid set up so it's at the right angle. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get this guy going. We got oil flow in the sight right now. We're starting with 302 RPM. And the feed rate is going to be, I believe it's 3/4 of an inch per minute. All right, and we're going to see how it goes and go from there. We should have some oil flow here. Let me just open our ducts. There we go. Oh yeah, that's a lot. I've been waiting to try this for quite a long time, so I'm excited to see how it goes. Looks like we've touched off in the back. I'm feeling good about that. Once we get a touch off, if we're feeling good, I'll up the feed rate. All right, I had my fun with the coolant, but it was pretty messy, so we don't need it anyway. Surface finish is looking pretty good. All right, guys, I'm really happy with how this turned out. A really clean finish on both sides, nice and straight. It is about 0.08 undersized, but that does not matter for this project. Really, I was looking for an excuse to use the gang milling technique, and it turned out really well. All right, guys, we got this over here in the other milling machine. I went ahead and just buzzed at the sides real quick, so now those are square in dimension. The next operation is to go ahead and get this faced. We're using our Suburban Tools Fly Cutter. This will be an excellent little review of this cutter. I've used it a bunch. Get mixed results, and mostly the mixed results are just because of user error. It's a great fly cutter. So we're cutting hot roll steel, which isn't the best for surface finish. and we'll see how we do. I'm gonna just throw some lubrication on here. I replaced the insert. I have no idea what type of insert this is. It kind of looks like it's one for not necessarily aluminum, but it does have a little bit of a positive chip breaker action. The one I had on there that it came with is more of a neutral rake tool. I'm hoping this will give a better chip and a better finish, but it's not quite as durable. So we don't need to take a lot off. We're probably gonna do about a 15 thou pass. What I found using this cutter is if you take like a 2 or 3 thou pass, you actually don't get the roll of chip and you don't get as good of a finish. And also you would think you run the spindle as high as possible and the RPM as slow as possible. That would be great because you have more engagement and a slower feed. And the reality is the feed and the speed has optimal setting where just like any other machining operation where it's efficient and looks good. So I'm gonna run it maybe at like 500 RPM and we're gonna try, I don't know, 2 or 3 on the dial and see how it looks and kind of go from there. All right, I got some fluid painted on there with a paintbrush so we got even coverage. We're gonna get this thing started and go from there. It's at 1600 RPM, so the startup will be pretty fun. Slow this back down. I'm running at 600 RPM actually. All right. And we're gonna touch off. Now once we touch off, there it is, there's a touch off on the back. All right, I'm actually gonna do, I'm just curious how the backside looks high. All right, so there, I'm gonna do 15 thousandths from there. So we're gonna 0 our DRO, bring it down. I'm gonna come off the workpiece. I'm gonna add it back to 0 and then add our 15 thousandths. We're gonna tighten up the gib over here on the table travel side to side. Our Z is locked, our quill is locked, everything is locked for maximum rigidity. Let's see how we do. All right, we got the fly cut surface finished. Turned out pretty good. It is not perfect, but it's pretty good. I think the cutter got a little bit duller on the second half of the cut, but overall I think it did pretty good. In this first part of the cut here, it's pretty much as good as I've ever seen with a fly cutter. The second half of the cut, it's pretty much what I expect most of the time. Real hard, in my opinion, to get a perfect fly cut finish, but it is possible. So now we're gonna get the part taken out of the vise, we're gonna get it deburred, flipped over, and we'll fly cut the other side. All right, we went ahead and got everything laid out with some dicum here. We're gonna go ahead and drill these 4 holes. It took me a minute to figure out what the spacing was on these holes. It's about 8 and 32 thousandths, or 8 and 1/32 on these. and then 4 5/16 between these. So we're going to put a 1/4 inch hole in and then take it over to the belt grinder and use our radius tool to put the radiuses on these 4 corners. Should be 4 5/16, 4.3125. All right, we've switched over to a finer grip belt just to try to refine the circle here. Let's see how we do. All right, we're gonna put a nice little bevel on this, or chamfer, using this cheap beveler. Pneumatic, it's pretty loud, but it works decently well.